The Nittany Lions are 2-0. The Nittany Lions can go to a bowl game, and Coach James Franklin has a full complement of scholarships to hand out. Nothing but good news for Penn State this week, guys.
Enough news for 1 week. Now the conference open.
It's going to be great. I mean, I'm excited for the kids, and it's going to be the Little Brother Bowl, again, Rutgers, Penn State.
Blue White Tailgate's next. Welcome. Great to have you with us on Blue White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light. Steve Jones, Trey Bauer, Todd Sadowski. Big week, big news. Bowl ban gets lifted, Todd.
Wow. 4-year bowl ban, history. Only 2 years. Now the guys know there's light at the end of the tunnel, and it probably leads to a bowl game at the end of the season.
And for a program, no one talks about the extra bowl practice or what it means.
Oh, it's huge. I mean, the fact that the kids can get prepared for the season, the coaches can scout, but personally for me, it's a little bit too, it's too little too late. They should have done it 2 years ago.
Yeah, and now let's take a look at the bowl sanction. They lifted the bowl ban. They get the 85 scholarships back. So that's how it all works out in terms of the numbers on this. As for Frankly Speaking, presented by Blaze Alexander Family of Dealerships, James Franklin on the lifting of sanctions.
We're very, very appreciative of the opportunity that we have, that the NCAA and the Big Ten and the Penn State administration worked so hard to make happen. We're very appreciative of that opportunity.
No question they are. At the same time, as you would expect, most of the national reaction has been good, but of course you would expect to be a mix in all of this.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think that, again, the information that was given out early there was a lot of misinformation, and I think people are still relying on that misinformation, so that's why I think there's still a lot of negative out there.
Yeah.
Well, and for the kids, I mean, look, this is a matter of these players, these coaches. Penn State clean house. There's no one there that was in there prior to this. This is a whole new set of kids, a whole new staff. It's time to let these guys go play and let these games mean everything they should mean.
And the fans were thrilled, and Andrew Callista's among his people.
Guys, the NCAA finally got smart and removed its head from its own backside by removing the sanctions against Penn State. And in good old Happy Valley, that can only mean one thing. Naysayers will say this is the problem. College kids hell-bent on destruction for the sake of a football team. In fact, it was the opposite. It was a rally in support of the players who have stuck by their school.
People weren't sure that it was going to come this year, but now that it has, I think people are really happy, obviously. It felt like they're being punished for something they didn't do. Now everybody's excited. We just want to go to a bowl, have some fun this season, just got a whole lot more exciting.
Some players decided to show up and chant along with the students. 2 years ago, chairwoman of the trustees, Karen Peets, told us in 2 years, this would all be forgotten. And papers have said the students don't care about Joe Paterno. I'll let you be the judge of that.
You never understood how big of a Joe Paterno influence he had on everything, and now it's such an honor to chant his name and just to realize how much he actually did for the school.
Joe Paterno! Joe Paterno! Joe Paterno! 409! 409! 409!
Writers and administrators want you to believe Penn State has made changes. The fact is, nothing needed to be changed. And as for the remaining sanctions, there is only one thing left to be done.
The reaction of young people, I mean, that's interesting because they've been on campus. I mean, and for those who are freshmen, sophomores now into their junior year, they never saw a game here that, when they were a student that he coached or the previous administration was here.
It is interesting, and I think that just says a lot about Joe, the legacy that he has and the legacy that he's built at Penn State, that there are so many kids that are so passionate about Penn State football and Penn State University, and I think a lot of that has to do with Joe Paterno.
And Coach Franklin mentioned something, Trey, that was interesting. He talked about the pride. Well, the pride's always been there, whether these games counted towards a bowl game or it didn't. And then the 49 guys that were stuck with the program, that they gave a standing ovation at the team meeting. The players that decided, no, we're not transferring out. The other players recognized them at the team meeting and gave them a standing ovation.
Yeah, that's incredibly meaningful. And someone who would know better than anybody about Penn State and what it's meant for decades, upon further review with our Fran Fisher.
It seems the NCAA has recognized Penn State's academic football culture for what it is, proper in every respect, as demanded by Coach Joe Paterno. Pylon artist Jim Delaney gives token recognition by agreeing to bowl eligibility, but no bowl bucks. Penn State's already lost an estimated $13 million in bowl sharing revenues. So the Nittany Lions go to a bowl at the end of the next 2 seasons with their bowl money from each going to a greedy conference and their competitors. Sheesh. Now to the business at hand. Rutgers is this week's opponent in the night's Big Ten debut. You remember them? I sure do. 2 games in particular come to mind. The 1995 game at Rutgers when Mike McQuarrie threw a touchdown pass to Chris Campbell with little time remaining and the Nittany Lions leading 52-34. Rutgers coach Doug Graber was really upset. At game's end, the 2 coaches got into a shouting match, which was shared by the television audience, including Joe's parting expletive. Thanks to Mike Poorman, I watched a replay of the game's final moments recently, and the TV guys were certainly not very kind to Coach Paterno. As it turned out, it was really McQuarrie's doing, not Joe. Then there was the 1988 game when Rutgers defeated the Nittany Lions 21-16. It was memorable for longtime Penn State assistant coach Dick Anderson, too. He was the head coach for the Scarlet Knights. Okay, folks, start making your bowl trip plans. For WHVL's Blue White Tailgate Show, this has been Upon Further Review. I'm Fran Fisher.
Fran doesn't mince words, guys.
He doesn't. And don't you think the bowl games are thirsting to have Penn State and their alumni? They're going to be fighting for the Penn State team to come to their city.
I absolutely agree. I think that before we get crazy and playing in a BCS bowl, I think we need to concentrate on Rutgers, and I think that I think Coach Franklin's going to discuss that.
Can't get there without starting at Rutgers, no question about that. That's the Big Ten opener, and for James Franklin, the narrow focus needs to remain the narrow focus.
Our message is consistent because I know our players read everything. So the same thing that I'm conveying to you, I'm conveying to our players. This game is no more important than what Central Florida was. This game is no more important than what Akron was. We approach every single game one game at a time, and that's the most important game on our schedule because it's the only game on our schedule. And that's how we approach it. So it won't change anything.
It won't and it can't, because when you look at the Big Ten, Penn State's previous 21 seasons, the opener literally for Penn State sets the tone, guys. They win it, they have a great year. They don't, they don't.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really, really important, and you have to understand the dynamic between the Rutgers folks and Penn State. I mean, there are so many of those kids from Rutgers that would love to come to Penn State. We either didn't recruit them or they ended up going to Rutgers. It's a huge, huge thing for Penn State to get by this team.
And I'm impressed with Coach Franklin that his message is always spot on with his kids. You know he's got a psychology background dealing with this many kids that are competitive. Keep them on focus. Keep them on the message. It's got to be about Rutgers on the road.
Well, let's go back to your previous comment, Todd, about the 49 players that have stayed through all of this. Why have they won 17 of 26 games to this? Because that's the mentality they've taken each and every game. We'll come back, take a look at the offense in a moment as we continue on Blue White Tailgate presented by Coors Light after this. Okay, so they roll up 450 yards. The quarterback throws for 314. People weren't happy. Am I missing something here? Am I missing something?
It was a very quiet 400-plus yard game, I think. Offensively, I think that they played well enough to win, but they need to play better if they're going to go to a bowl game this year.
Yeah, they got something out of the Wildcat, but it's the conventional running game that right now is not in place.
Well, and look, running is about assignment football, right? Everybody's got to do their assignments. Why it's one of the ultimate team games. If one thing gets blown up, then the defense blows up your play. So Coach Franklin talked about just finishing off your assignment. Cooler heads prevail. You don't have to get so frustrated out there. Stay with it. Stay with the running game, and that they're going to keep plugging away. Figure it out.
Well, this is about assignment television. My assignment is the Stocker Drive of the Game, brought to you by Stocker Chevrolet, located on the Benner Pike across from the Nittany Mall. Penn State winning by a score of 7-3, and they dump it off to Bill Belton in the flat, and he gets Penn State rolling on this particular play. Christian Hackenberg, all right, steps up. This is your basic 3rd and 24 play that really changed the dynamics of the game, in my opinion. Slings it sidearm here, and this is where Allen Robinson was great a year ago, where Deshaun Hamilton took it picking his way through traffic. And then over the middle, Geno Lewis, so dependable, and now sets the Nittany Lions up in a great position here. They flip it now. They try this pass to Hackenberg. I don't think so. No. All right, so let's just let Hackenberg throw it. Why not? A dart to Jesse James. Penn State goes up 14-3. It just seemed better with 14 throwing instead of 1. That's my opinion on the Stocker Chevrolet drive of the game.
Yes, I mean, the fact is you got a 6'4", 235-pound guy who threw for a gazillion yards last year. Let him throw the ball.
Yes, and our family clothesline offensive player of the game, Jesse James, Todd, 2 catches, 57 yards. Seemed to maximize with 2 touchdowns.
Well, anytime you catch the ball both times and you're in the end zone both times you catch the ball, every time he called it, he scored. That is definitely maximizing your effort, and why wouldn't you look for the guy? You mentioned a 6'4" quarterback, Trey. How about a 6'7" tight end that just takes up a lot of space? Go a little high. I don't think you got too many 6'7" defenders on Jesse James.
No, absolutely not. And the fact is you got a 6'7" guy. You've got, he's a very talented player, and I think that they need to throw to him more often, and I think it's going to open up the running game. I really do.
It's interesting. He had a couple of drops in the first quarter, and Lauren Crispo, who works with us on the Penn State Sports Network on the sideline, said he walked by and James said to Hackenberg, "Don't lose faith in me." And then he came up with the 2 touchdown catches for the 2 touchdowns. Good quarterbacks don't lose faith in good players. Explosive plays. James Franklin wants 8 per game. In this quiet offensive effort, they had 11.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually surprising that happened.
Yeah.
I mean, I really do. I mean, for them to have a lot of the plays that they did have, it was a very quiet effort, if that even sense.
When you look at it, you have 21 points, but there's a couple things that I take away from it. You mentioned explosive plays. They average 14.5 yards per completion. That's a pretty good number. That's what you're looking for, to move the chains just about every time that you throw the ball and complete it. The other thing is the time of possession. They got into the third quarter, and they just dominated in the second half when they needed to. They fumbled right away in the third quarter. Once they got things straightened out, they won on a 10-play drive, or they ate up 19 minutes of the second half clock.
Geno Lewis now locked in on Rutgers. They play a lot of cover 0, as he explains.
We watch film a lot, so I see that these guys, they like to play press a lot, and things like that. So we're just gonna have to be prepared and being able to get off the line, and I'm excited for this game, and to go out there and just make plays.
What do you guys think of the pass protection so far?
I think the pass protection has been really good this year. I mean, we talked about this earlier in the season. I think Herb Hand and his staff have done a really, really solid job. I think that the pass protection has been very surprising to me.
Well, and Coach Franklin and the staff talked about putting guys in the right position to let them succeed. With the offensive line growing into their roles, growing into their starting positions, they're moving Hackenberg just that little bit. Christian Hackenberg's footwork is definitely better this year, so he's buying himself that extra second or 2 that he needs. So not only is the offensive line getting the job done, the coaching staff and Christian Hackenberg are complementing it and getting that extra second or 2 you need to throw the ball.
Now, the Wildcat worked, the timing much better. They had good production out of it. Conventional running game still needs work, so Angelo Mangiero, are you pressing a bit?
No, I'm confident in the guys in the backfield doing their job, and I'm sure they're confident in us. I know I'm confident in our group, and we just got to go out and execute the offense and do what our coaches are teaching us to do. Don't go outside of the framework of what they're teaching us. So if we do that, we'll be fine.
And okay, now let's get to another part, the giveaway, takeaway part. When you won your national championship here, I think you were like a plus 26.
Yes.
Right, champions do that. They're -5 right now. Your thoughts on that giveaway, takeaway through 2?
I think it has to get better. If it doesn't get better, they're going to really struggle. The fact is that you cannot turn the ball over and expect to win football games down the Big Ten Conference.
Yeah.
Well, and they had 3 turnovers, and that's not good.
Right.
It's not great. But the problem's really on the flip side. They didn't create any turnovers at all. They didn't get the field position back to the offense and get them a short field to work with by creating those turnovers. So, Hackenberg's got 4 interceptions in the first 2 games. He's made some decisions that were questionable, but when you throw the ball as much as they're throwing the ball, and teams, if you're not running it, teams are going to sell out on the pass. There are going to be some mistakes that are made. They need to create those turnovers and get them a shorter field and put up some more points.
There was an old saying, which you heard around here many times, it takes 3 field goals to beat a touchdown. Penn State needs more touchdowns in the red zone. James Franklin addressed that.
Offensively, we're going to have to develop a consistent running game. I'm not telling you anything you guys don't know. We're going to have to do that. We're going to keep investing in that every single day. That will happen. We're going to have to score touchdowns in the red zone, not field goals. We have to do a better job of that.
Did you ever hear that 3 field goals? Did anybody ever,
I wasn't a math major.
Did anybody ever mention that to you in a staff meeting ever, where you're in a meeting? Any head coach say that to you?
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Yeah, math's right.
Math is right. Yeah. 9 is more than 6.
Yeah.
Last I
3,
checked.
1, yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Coming up, we'll talk about a defense that surrendered just 3 points and has played very well. We'll come back, talk about the defense in a moment as we continue with Blue White Tailgate presented by Coors Light after this. Let's talk about defense now. Trey, they're keeping the ball in front of them. Okay, the ball's not getting behind these guys.
Yeah.
Talk about down distance situational defense and how important that element is.
Well, I think they're playing really well. They're playing smart football. At the end of the day, the way I look at it is that if they gave up 3 points. You can win a lot of football games only giving up 3 points.
You can win almost everyone, just
Yes.
giving up almost everyone. And now you have a long, interesting look at the defense.
Yes, absolutely. Sure, the offense only scored 21. They won the game by 18, as long as we're doing math on the program today, correct? And the defense is getting the job done. And you know what? Not only did they beat the Zips, but they also beat the Heat.
It was definitely hot, definitely hotter than Dublin, and we were ready for that going in, mentally prepared all week long for it, and we got some hot practices in this week, so we were ready to go.
Doesn't matter the temperature or the country he plays in, senior linebacker Mike Hull is going to put some people on the ground. He has double-digit tackles for the 2nd consecutive game. If Coach Franklin has his way, he will see more people coming in and out of the huddle.
We're not getting enough people in the games. At least that's what my gut tells me after watching it. We're going to go back and evaluate it, but we got to play more guys, which I think will make us more effective in the 4th quarter, and I think that will allow us to stay fresh throughout the year.
The Lions would love to be this stout against the run all year. They're 4th nationally in rushing defense, allowing only 46.5 yards per game so far.
We're big, we're physical. Having a guy like AJ who's 6'4", 313 pounds right at the point of attack is really helpful. Big people help. So I've been pleased with our D-line. I've been pleased with our linebacker. I think we can tighten up a few more things from a coverage perspective.
We were able to make plays down there in the red zone. We did a good job, and we're going to keep improving every week. Senior year, first game at home for the senior year, and it's awesome to get a win anytime, but it's great to go in front of your fans.
The Scarlet Knights are next on the schedule. The defense has been solid. Coach wants to see improvement in 2 key areas.
We got to create more 3 and outs, and we got to create more turnovers. That's what we have to do, those 2 things.
Those 2 things are important, creating the 3 and outs and creating the turnovers. A couple of takeaways that I had from it. You mentioned keeping everything in front of you. They had 24 completions, but they only averaged 8 yards per completion in the game. So they are keeping them in front of them, and they're making the tackles for that. Akron had a 15-play drive, came up empty.
Right.
That's pretty good. Obviously you're giving up those little chunks of yardage, Trey, but you give up a 15-play drive, and I would tell you, oh, they had 15 plays. You'd be thinking they scored some points. They came away empty on that drive.
I think that they're playing well. I think that it would be very, very surprising to me if they don't really take it to Rutgers this week. I mean, the defense has a lot of confidence, and playing defense, you need to have a lot of confidence, and I think that they're really playing well.
Our Defensive Player of the Week presented by the Family Clothesline. Middle linebacker Mike Hull, 11 tackles again, now has 22 tackles on the season. Traffic patterns different inside compared to outside. He has made a great adjustment, including plays like that, keeping Akron pinned by their own goal line. And not only that, there are very few middle linebackers that play the pass and understand the proper pass drop depth better than Mike Hull.
Yeah, I mean, he's a good athlete. He can run. He's obviously one of the stronger guys on the team. He's got some experience, and he's what you would think of as a Penn State linebacker. I mean, not as good looking as me, but I mean, come on, let's not get crazy.
Really, there really has never been. I mean, seriously, no. Yeah. Play along.
Yeah.
All right. Mike Hull takes a look at that Rutgers defense led by Gary Nova.
Great quarterback with experience. Running back's really a solid player. I think he had like 800 and some yards last year before he got injured. So we're gonna have to bring our A game on Saturday.
And part of that A game is that defensive front. Sean Spencer, in the Heat, played 10 defensive linemen. What kind of difference did that make in the fourth quarter for the starters?
Well, let's go back to Mike Hull for a second with that defensive line. I think, Trey, you tell me if I'm wrong, it keeps linebackers clean. How many times are the linebackers the first point of contact in years past? When you got the defensive line plugging holes and stopping guys, at least making them go in different directions, it keeps your linebackers really, really clean. And you mentioned the 10 guys. It keeps the defensive linemen fresh. And to hear Coach Franklin say, we want to play more guys, they're already playing 10 guys up front. So this is where depth and competition and talent starts to pour out of your roster.
I absolutely agree. I mean, the fact is that Penn State has had great linebackers in the past. They will continue to recruit and get good players. But the fact is, if you think about the great defensive linemen we've had in this program, it's just one after the other after the other.
And they will be tested. This Rutgers offensive line is experienced. They have combined for 109 career starts between the 5 guys. So there's a little more experience up front for Rutgers that people realize. All right, let's get to the hit of the game. All right, hit of the game, 4th and 1. Akron now 4th and a half yard. Connor Hundley, Andre Johnson, Brandon Bell off the edge. He lost 2 yards in the play. Defenses love these moments. I remember you and Bobby Humphrey, baby, down there in '86. Up over the top, Humphrey went nowhere. That ball went back to midfield.
Yes, it did, I think. I think I remember that play.
Yeah, you led it.
Yes, it was good. It was all good. I mean, I think that the fact is when you see the defense breaking the line of scrimmage and getting into positive territory, that's always a good thing.
Yeah, no question. So that's our hit of the week. And overall, special teams going to play a big role in this game. Federico's a good kicker. Ficken. I thought Penn State special teams were rock solid this week.
The defense, right? And that what Coach Franklin refers to them at. We got the offense, the defense, and the we-fence. And look, they made it a priority at the beginning. When he came in, he stressed special teams. And when he talks about it after the game, he's dissecting the kicking game. You don't hear that a lot. He's talking about the kicking game. Punting is going well. 3 punts inside the 20. I mean, those are all field position things, and that makes it possible for the defense to maybe give up a few first downs before they stop them. I mean, it all plays into the end of the game and that end result, 21-3.
All right, so that's a look at the Penn State defense. A little later, we'll break down Rutgers. Coming up, Todd and I will have a conversation with Athletic Director Sandy Barbour as we continue on Blue White Tailgate. Welcome back to Blue White Tailgate. Steve Jones, Todd Sadowski, joined by Penn State Athletic Director Sandy Barbour. Sandy, welcome. Great to have you with us.
I'm glad to be here.
Well, it's obviously been a great week for Penn State football in terms of the long-term health. Your thoughts on what happened and also what it can mean for the football program?
Well, I mean, I'm first and foremost just really glad for our guys. Glad for the young men in this football program that they no longer are laboring under conditions that limit them. You know, they obviously didn't have anything to do with the scrutiny and the issues that Penn State was under. And I loved James yesterday. I've turned it into we're now eligible to become eligible for a bowl. A lot of work to be done, and always nice to hold a carrot out for 17 to 22-year-olds, and so they can focus on that now. And James and the staff have the full complement of 85 scholarships to recruit with. There are certainly some practical implications there, given how you recruit and manage a college football program at 85 scholarships. I'm not sure that's where we'll be next fall, but we've got the bullets in the gun to give it a good shot.
Sandy, it's always fascinating to see how news is disseminated. And, of course, Mike Hall, linebacker, said he found out at a Chick-fil-A, and then Coach Franklin was trying to get to the message. You found out through Twitter or social media. Everybody knew the Mitchell report was coming out. How did you find out about the news? And then how quickly does everybody have to react to let everybody know what's going on to stay ahead of what's happening?
Well, you bring up a really, really good point, and probably my biggest disappointment out of the whole process. I am a big believer in standing up for our teams and our programs and our kids. Probably not to the extent that Pat Hayden took it last week, but and Pat's a friend. But if I'd had my druthers, we would have had an opportunity to gather the football team, and they should have been privileged with that information, even if it's by a matter of minutes. In defense of the process, there were a lot of entities here. There was obviously Senator Mitchell, there was the Big Ten, and there was the NCAA. I just think that it would have been proper. It's beyond nice. It would have been proper for the institution to have been notified, the coach to have been notified, and the student athletes to have been notified before the public got it. But we can live with it. I literally, as soon as I found out, as I was being told what the results were, I was dialing James, and as the phone connected and we were talking, I got a text from a media member saying congratulations.
Yeah. Wow, amazing. You've been at some marvelous institutions. In the weeks you've been here, what has been your feel for the athletic and football culture here?
None better. I have been at some great places, and so nothing I'm about to say should be perceived to denigrate them in any way, shape, or form. But this is a place that I think holds athletics in the proper perspective, but also understands how powerful and valuable it can be to promote the excellence and the greatness of the institution. And I think I'm so excited about that and what opportunities that provides an athletic program in order to do great things for an institution, and then also it provides resources and opportunity for student athletes that they might not otherwise have. I've been at places that wanted to be great, that had an opportunity to be great, were great in many aspects. I mean, the Olympic experience, being the Cal athletic director. Every 4 years, pretty incredible. We have that opportunity here. We have that opportunity to enhance that. Obviously, 107,000 people on a Saturday afternoon, and what I experienced last Saturday in terms of the passion of the Nittany Lion Nation for Penn State football is pretty incredible, and we have the opportunity to harness that and do great things for this university and this community.
College students do not need much of a reason to party, but what a celebration they had this week. Can you talk about how you think that is going to heal the PSU community? And really, you talked about the passion at the games. It might even ramp up just a little bit more, knowing that there's more on the line, I guess, for the end result of the football game.
Yeah, I think Monday night and what the students did, I've been asked this, as you might imagine, I've been asked this question a couple of times, but I think what they did Monday night was a tip of the cap from our students to the young men in that football program. Because I think that was about, we're really happy for you guys that you have an opportunity to work for and to earn a bowl. And yes, as a community and as a student body, we're going to be really excited about that, and we're going to be excited, maybe to travel to a bowl site. We're going to be excited about the opening the Big Ten season and having that on the line. But I think it was about their connection to each other, and I'm certainly pleased that it was it was controlled, and that it was all of the energy was very positive and was directed in a really, really positive way. And I'm learning that's the Penn State way.
Sandy Barbour, you're a part of the Penn State way as well. Thanks so much for the time you gave us.
My pleasure. Look forward to doing it again.
Penn State Athletic Director Sandy Barbour. Back with more after this on Blue White Tailgate. All right, Rutgers. First ever Big Ten game for Rutgers. This is a big deal in New Jersey, Mr. Jersey.
That's right. I mean, I think it is a big deal for Rutgers. I think that it's going to be a national stage for them. It's going to be interesting to see how they play, and I'm excited about it.
And now we get to Coach Kyle Flood. He's going his third year now at Rutgers. He inherited talent from Greg Schiano. He's gone to back-to-back bowl games, and I mean, he's kept things at a relatively high level based on Rutgers' history.
First coach in their history to do that his first 2 years, to take the Scarlet Knights to bowl games, and now he is leading the program into making the switch to the Big Ten. And so that plays well into your recruiting. They're out there, they're getting their name out there. So this atmosphere, this game certainly means a lot to Penn State, knowing that now the bowl ban has been lifted. But what do you think this means to Rutgers? Your very first Big Ten game at home, at night, on a weekend. There's not that many great games and great matchups out there. Yeah. We're going to see what kind of atmosphere the student body is going to create and what Rutgers University can bring to the table, because you know they are stressing this one on Saturday night.
Gary Nova has been the guy at quarterback in each of the last 3 preseasons. In each of the last 2 bowl seasons we just referenced, he was replaced at the end. He's still the most talented guy they have, and he's off to a great start. When you see Nova, what do you like about him?
I think he's got confidence. He seems to show a lot of leadership ability. Penn State's not Howard. Let's not get crazy here, okay? Okay, Penn State is not Howard, so we're going to see, how well he does on a big stage.
Penn State's not Howard. Earned your money on that one.
And he was able to spread it around against Howard, and that tough Howard defense. 9 players caught passes.
Yeah, it's more than that, though. It's the utilization of a really good tailback in Paul James, and that's a part of this as well. James, they want to get the ball into his hands as often as possible.
Yes, I mean, I think that if they can get the running game going, which is going to be very difficult against Penn State, I think that's going to really open up, the lanes for him and his receivers.
So, Mike Hull, you may have to take him in the flat once in a while. What kind of runner do you see in Paul James?
Yeah, he gets downhill fast. He's a quick hitter, and he doesn't do too much, shiftiness, which that makes it a lot harder whenever backs are trying to run north and south every time.
There's no question about that, but there's also another impact here as well. Ralph Friedgen was brought in to be the offensive coordinator. So, Todd, what can that mean to have a guy with that acumen calling plays?
Look, this guy has a history of running innovative offenses and getting the job done. And they had an amazing staff at Maryland. So, of course, Coach Franklin knows Ralph Friedgen very, very well. Bill O'Brien, Coach Franklin, Friedgen were all on a staff in 2001 to 2003 that won 31 games, went to the Orange Bowl. That doesn't happen very often in the Terrapins' history if you take a look at it. So he has got a lot of weapons that he wants to use. He's got a lot of ways to utilize them. And you mentioned Paul James. He's leading the Big Ten in scoring. He's got 6 touchdowns, 2 catches. We talk about Jesse James scoring both times he caught the ball. Paul James did the same thing. For 100 yards, 2 catches, got in the end zone both times.
And the other part, a lot of people have talked about the 109 career starts by that offensive line. So they have some experience up front. Defensively, they love to play cover 0. What does that do to the other 9 players when you're man up on the outside?
Well, I mean, you have to have the wheels to be able to play that defense. I mean, I think you have to be able to rely on your pass rushers and your linebackers coming off the corner. If they're out there on an island by themselves, it's going to be a long night for them, I think.
Yeah, and that's the thing. We were talking before, and we'll get to the Big Ten in the final segment, but, I mean, Bud Foster's defense for Virginia Tech, I think it was on an index card.
Yes.
I mean, they played cover 0, straight up man-man on the outside. The other 9 guys just went to the ball, took away the dive, took away everything else. I mean, it was an index card. It wasn't that complicated.
Yes, it doesn't have to be that complicated. Right. If you can dominate the line of scrimmage, we talked about that early in the season. You dominate the line of scrimmage, and then everything else is going to be easy after that.
And Geno Lewis discussed going up against that Rutgers secondary.
Defense, they like to play man and come after the quarterback a little bit. We're just going to have to go out there, play our game, be disciplined, and just be really detailed in everything that we do, and just do our job, and we'll be fine.
I know they've only played one game in Beaver Stadium, but in reality, this is their first road test because Ireland was like having a home game with 12, 15,000 Penn State fans. So what about handling the environment?
Well, Coach Franklin's been on top of that from the beginning. He admitted he had made a mistake in years past in waiting until the first road game to start piping in noise to get the guys used to it. He said he's been doing it from the first day of camp. And it's interesting because they do have new rules where you can pipe in noise up until the snap is imminent, up until they're about to take the snap. He said they've been bringing in music all week long and rolling it all the way through the snap, all the way through. He said country, rap, doesn't matter what kind of music they've been doing. They've been making it as loud as possible. But this is where young receivers come into play. Communication, hand signals. You may see some passes where Geno Lewis goes straight. Hackenberg thought he was cutting it off short. Hands up in the air, miscommunications. I'm going to be looking for that this week, and hopefully these guys are all on the same page when they get to Rutgers.
And this is another interesting chapter because Maryland will come on, of course, later in the season, and Penn State will go to Baltimore next year to M&T Bank Stadium. But it does bring back for Penn State fans their ability to drive to a Big Ten game at Rutgers, drive to a Big Ten game at Maryland, and by regionalizing, it helps out Penn State. We'll take a look at recruiting as we continue on Blue White Tailgate.
Time to party in Happy Valley. We're back on the Blue White Tailgate for the recruiting segment, sponsored by Central PA Dock and Door. Andrew Callista steps in, and Andrew, we got a lot to talk about. All of a sudden, Coach Franklin, who doesn't need more energy, now has an extra 5 scholarships to give away. They have been given back to Penn State.
Well, it was like a double shot of 5-hour energy right into his bloodstream. They're excited. But you know what? They have to temper that a little bit because they have to figure out the numbers. They want to take 25 this year, but they might want to save some for the class of 2016. That's supposed to be a small class. But right now, Coach Franklin, he's being patient and taking his time with the numbers.
A couple of things that we're working through right now to make sure we completely understand, because it's never as clean as everybody thinks it is, as black and white as is reported. There's a lot more specifics and details that go into it, so we're trying to work through that right now. It will have an impact on this class. If it gives us the ability to get to the 85, I'm not sure of yet.
So how do they get to that 85? I expect them to take up to maybe 22 this year, keep 3 in the bag. You never know. They might get some walk-ons a shot. Well-deserved reward for those guys.
And not only is the coach reacting, but commits are reacting as well, and they are elated about the news.
The recruits are excited as we take a look at some of the guys, how they spoke out on Twitter. Saquon Barkley, the running back out of Whitehall. The scholarships are back. Great recruiting job. This is going to take Penn State to the next level. Steven Gonzalez, he is stoked about the bowl games and not worrying about how many scholarships they have left. Miles Hartfield, some strong words. Now we're going to win Big Ten championships and national championships, not one, but multiple. And Jarvis Miller, it's great. I'm glad the sanctions got lifted. Now we could get back to being the power that we should be. Echoes of the late 80s and early 90s at Penn State.
I like how he made it plural, championships, not just the first one, plural, multiple championships. So, okay, so the recruiting class is ranked number 8 so far. Where do they go from here? What kind of targets do they have now that they're still on these guys for the upcoming class?
Well, 2 of the targets right now, D-tackle Christian Wilkins. He's 6'5", 300 pounds out of Suffield, Connecticut. He's excited that Penn State now might have room for him. He has a top 6 that includes Boston College, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Clemson, and Stanford. As you look at this guy's film, you could see he has explosiveness off the ball. He's a flat-out player out of Connecticut. And you know what? I like that Notre Dame's in on him, as well as Stanford and Ohio State. Coach Johnson, you know, he's out there. That's a great battle right there for Coach Franklin to go up with Coach Spencer and everything. Really excited to see what he could do. And Jordan Whitehead, he's a cornerback. He's the number 6 kid in the state of Pennsylvania. He has great closing speed on the ball, 5'10", 165 out of Central Valley High School. Very physical, and he plays with all the confidence of being out there on an island. You gotta like that in your defensive back. And Todd, one more thing. they need a kicker. Sam Ficken is gone. Are they going to use one of those scholarships on a kicker?
I think that would be the smart move. Kind of an important part of the game.
Yeah,
Coach
just
is always talking about the defense and the special teams. Okay, the Health South injury update. Well, this doesn't change much because we don't hear much from Coach Franklin and the guys, but they do seem relatively healthy as you watch the games. Everybody's coming out of it pretty clean, but you got Ben Klein, Adam Brenneman, and Miles Diffenbach on the list right there. So, a lot's changing with the recruiting, Andrew. This is going to be a subject that's really going to heat up even more. Coach Franklin, this is his specialty. He's going to have some more fun with this.
The people in Southern Ohio and Columbus, they better take notice. Penn State is not going to be a dog for much longer.
So you're going to see that picture even more often. You'll see the guys holding up the one with Coach Franklin. He's going to have some fun with that for sure. Okay, more to come here on the Blue-White Tailgate. This is a special show, everyone. We've got the bowl ban lifted. We got the scholarships back. Everyone's excited about the Nittany Lions. We'll be right back here on Blue-White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light.
That group you just saw is now eligible to be eligible. And for Bill O'Brien, who went through the sanctions for 2 years, he reacted this week in Houston.
I think that's great news for Penn State. Penn State is a fantastic place. It's a great education, great football program. A lot of good people have done a lot of great things over there over the last couple of years to make sure that that they've learned from the past mistakes and understood that that's a special place. And so I feel very happy for Penn State, and I mostly I feel happy for the players.
We now get to the segment we affectionately call the good, the bad, the ugly, although this week we'll change to the good, the better.
I'll take the bad.
You take the bad.
Yeah.
You get the good.
The good. I think the good is that the NCAA finally got their head out of their rear ends, and they did the right thing by allowing Penn State to move on with their program. I think that all in all, I think it's a great thing, and I think that it's a long time coming.
Let's get to the better now. The Devin Still story is heart-wrenching. To have a child with cancer, day to day you don't know. As someone who has spent a lot of time at children's hospitals in his lifetime, I've seen it, I know it. The Bengals kept him on the roster and then elevated him to the 45-man roster. His jersey is being sold with all the proceeds going to help out children. That's more than just the better.
Highest selling jersey ever, too. Yes. Off the charts. They're buying that jersey. Great story right there. And the bad this week, the Big Ten. Did you see what happened last Saturday? Even the teams that won almost lost and somewhat embarrassed themselves, with McNeese State almost pulling it out against Nebraska. When the kids at Penn State aren't the only ones celebrating and the rest of the Big Ten is celebrating that Penn State is back in the picture, you know the Big Ten is down a little bit. They got to pick it up, folks.
Let's go around the top 25, and really, when we look at the top 25, here's the list of games here. For whatever reason, there aren't a lot of marquee games here. Penn State-Rutgers really is the big game of the weekend.
It is. It absolutely is. And the fact that, you know, if you're Jim Delaney and you're the Big Ten, I mean, you obviously wanted to have, you know, Rutgers in for a while now, and now you get the New York audience, and it's going to be it's a marquee matchup.
All right, so let's get to Saturday night. It's 8 o'clock. How does it need to play out?
I think it needs to play out that Penn State better come prepared. I think that you know, Rutgers is really, this is an opportunity for them to show the country what they're all about, and I think that you know, Penn State better be ready to play.
All right, mine very simply is that giveaway takeaway part. You go on the road, you can't be minus, and you have to get touchdowns in the red zone.
Last week I went red zone offense. I'll go red zone defense because I think Rutgers will move the ball on Penn State's defense, and it's imperative that they keep them out of the end zone and keep them to 3 points when they get down there.
Well, this was scheduled as a non-conference game. In fact, Rutgers, believe it or not, replaced Nebraska in this spot when Nebraska was a non-conference game. So now they decided just keep the game in the same spot, and it couldn't work any better for the Big Ten. It's the only conference game of the weekend, and the focus will be on High Point Solutions Stadium. We're looking forward to it at 8 o'clock. For Trey, Todd, I'm Steve. Thanks for joining us on Blue White Tailgate, presented by Coors Light.